Deadlock is going to be a way better game than you think, and I'm going to tell you why. Before I start, yes, this gameplay is not Deadlock. As a playtester, Valve has asked everyone not to show footage of the game or release any new information or updates to the game that are currently being added aside from information that is already publicly available. I want to respect this request as well. That said, time to get into the video. Let's start by taking a look at the most popular games being played right now, specifically picking out those that are the most relevant and can be played in the professional setting. Counter-Strike 2, Valorant, Dota 2, League of Legends, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, and Overwatch. I know I'm probably missing a couple games, so I'm just using these games as an example for this video. What do all these titles have in common? Aside from Valorant, because let's be honest, Riot basically steals game ideas for every title they have. These franchises are all either a decade old or getting close to it. These games have been in the spotlight for a very long time. There's a very good reason for this, of course. All of these games provide something to players that other games cannot, hence why they have remained popular for such a long time. Some titles can appear to be timeless, almost as if they could never possibly fade into obscurity. I can definitely see this point of view since titles like Legend of Zelda and Pokemon have existed since video games have become a huge staple in pop culture. Pokemon, for instance, has existed and remained a popular franchise since 1996. That's 30 years running, just about. But let's take a closer look at this franchise. Doing a basic search of its popularity online since 2004, the franchise appears to have somewhat of a steady interest and decent spikes in popularity whenever a new title is released. But when we look at Pokemon itself, specifically the video games, we can see a clear decline in not only quality but creativity, and this is recognized from the fans themselves. They have expressed their disappointment with the recent projects being released from this franchise. The result of this, if nothing changes, will be an eventual full decline in interest as new titles released and new franchises are established. What I'm trying to say here is that over time, a game's decline is inevitable. Yes, it's true that a game could always have a fan base forever, possibly, but this fan base will become more of a niche one rather than something mainstream. There was a time where people thought that no game could top Counter-Strike, let alone compete with it. Then Valorant gets released 20 years later. Sure, it might have taken mechanics straight from Counter-Strike, but the point is that something new came. This new game brought an entire audience, millions even, to a genre of game that might have never been touched by these people. I mean, if you look at what the public perception is of players that play Counter-Strike, most people, if they're on the younger side, will say that only boomers play that game. Same goes for World of Warcraft. We can't deny that only boomers play that game, and the occasional 23-year-old autistic man who hates modern gaming. Saying a game will never die is like saying when Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, he said to himself, yeah, can't imagine it getting any better than this. And you know what? Some people who were alive in that time may have genuinely believed that exact statement, but never lived to see the improvements we've made. Video games are not a light bulb, but they are part of technology, which grows and advances faster and faster every year. Now, what does this have to do with Deadlock? Well, let's talk about it. Going off what I've already said, I believe my point has already been made, but more about the game itself. I'm sure you know by now, judging based on the fact that you're watching this video, that you are already aware of what Deadlock is, what kind of game it is, and have already watched content, whether it be from other gamers like myself or leaksters that post gameplay without being scared of the risk of losing their entire Steam account. Couldn't be me. I have over 300 games on my Steam account. I am not willing to risk that. Well, it's simple. Deadlock is based off a current successful model of popular games, MOBAs. As I said before, a game's decline is inevitable, and so we can see this happening with League of Legends and Dota 2. Playing a game over and over again, even if it's continuously updated, will eventually get boring for any person. Even a chess master gets bored of playing chess eventually. Moving on, Deadlock has taken a successful model and added a new spin to it that isn't entirely new, but is an improvement on the spin, while also adding unique elements that do not belong to any other game that you could play right now. Let's talk about the abilities of a character in a MOBA and the plethora of items that can be used to play any character. For an experienced experienced player, this is just another day on the game. But for a new gamer trying to get into it, they may not be as interested, considering the complexity and the almost decade worth of information that has to be learned in order to even have a chance at doing good in a ranked match. Especially if you don't want people to call you slurs. Thousands of YouTube tutorials and build lists to consume, and which one is right for you. On top of this, moving the character from a top-down perspective may be a challenge for those who have never played a top-down type game. And most new gamers right now, people who are in their 20s, have definitely not played a top-down game unless they're extreme nerds and love RPGs. In short, a game's death is caused by new generations of gamers lacking interest. Yes, you can continuously update your current popular game, but you're most likely just satisfying the current players rather than drawing in new ones. And by attempting to draw in new players by doing something different, you are also at risk of losing the current fans of the game, or people who have played the game for a decade because they have Stockholm Syndrome. Deadlock takes these complicated systems and turns them into an easy to understand, manageable, and quickly learnable model. For example, when I started playing Deadlock, I played a couple of characters that I found interesting. Once I found a character that I would like to main, by day 2, I had already learned the best items for the character for the way that I like to personally play that character, and had begun experimenting with all the different types of ways that I could use his abilities, and there are so many unique ways to use every single character's abilities in the game. It was easy to understand. I learned how the character worked. It didn't take me YouTube tutorials or reading the best build list, because everything was so digestible and easy to understand. Once you learn the items, and the list of items is not that big, which is another great thing, everything just becomes a lot easier and the experience is just better overall for it. For me personally, experimenting in a game like League of Legends means certain death. Deadlock is new, and so everyone is new and learning. This is the foundation of my opinion on why I believe Deadlock will become among one of the most played competitive games soon to come. I know I sound like I'm glazing, and you know what? I kinda am. And yes, Valve is not perfect. You know what? This comment is so right, and Valve doesn't deserve to be praised fully. But you have to still recognize that the studio is attempting to take a giant leap in developing a fresh IP, and Valve has always been innovators in the gaming space, creating new types of games for us to play. And creating a fresh new IP for most big developers is a risk. And they're trying to establish a title that could be the next new game that is played for the next 20 years until its eventual death. Yes, you can keep updating a game forever, but don't you think the developers themselves would like to create something new? If you were a baker and you baked the same exact type of cake for 20 years straight, wouldn't you want to experiment with a different type of cake? I don't want this video to be too long. If you want me to talk more about the game and more about the gameplay itself in detail, make sure to like this video so I know that's what you guys are looking for. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I earned your subscription today. Till next time, peace.